Welcome, welcome, welcome. How you all getting on? Welcome to my video. So today's video I want to talk about the different ways that you see spirits. Okay, so when I see spirits, I break it down into 4 simple chambers. And in each chamber we've got a mirror to each of the worlds. So with all of the distractions that we've got going on in the world today, I'd like to break it down to 4 simple chambers. That's within my ethos of spiritual socialism. That's what I like to call what I practice, how I see the world, the universe, the multi-dimensional physical and energetical worlds. And as economic socialism is the redistribution of wealth, spiritual socialism to me is the redistribution of energy. So what that really means is we don't specifically need figureheads to be go-betweens between the gods and the divine. There's nothing wrong with it. I have no issue with anything. My revolution is internal. I'm not here trying to change the world. I'm only here trying to be myself and thus project that onto the world. You know, so the 4 chambers. The 4 chambers are physical, our body; spiritual, the energy; ethereal, the mind; the divine, the heavens. So the 4 chambers, that's what I call them. So with all that in mind, each one of these chambers has a mirror to the other one. You know, for example, when I see a physical body with these human eyes, obviously I see the tangibility. When I stop that type of viewing and I move on to a softer gaze and look at the energy body, obviously I see the soul in all of its many multi-dimensional facets. When I look into the ethereal, I see stories. For example, I say condition, but say very loosely, I have a ESP spell, an extrasensory perception, as coined by Dr. Ryan, in what's called sympaesthesia. Sympaesthesia is abstract imagery. For example, you've heard the saying, you can hear a painting or you can feel a piece of music. It's very much like that. It's nothing new. Everybody has it, in my opinion. It's just everybody feels differently and has heightened senses, so on and so forth. It's just because it doesn't fit into our framework of what we've been told, doesn't mean it isn't real. So, all of these facets, move on to the last one, the divine. I see that in all of its facets. So with the divine, because if we're living on a 3 dimension, that possibly just could be 5. And because it's not how we view the 3, I would see it as the deities, for example, like the Christ, Allah, God, lots of from all different religions, Pan from the old Druidic days, the man of the forest, Mother Earth, all of these, you know, archetypal, Renaissance possibly, interpretations. So that's how I see. So for every single facet of the physical, the spiritual, the ethereal and the divine, we have a mirror into each one. So bear that in mind. An easy way I like to explain it to people is that when you were a child, you know, when you were born, they say we're born with blurred eyes. It takes us a year maybe to be able to get that focus. So if it's taken a year to be able to use your human eyes, it's going to, you know, take as much time to be able to use your spirit eyes. And then they say the first 7 years of your life is the most important for the rest of your life. So with all this in mind, society today is built up a picture. It's built up an idea, a concept. So this is just adding to it. So it's difficult to break down those components in our subconscious just to say, oh yes, we want to incorporate this into it. So I've always been this way, you know, so it's not been that difficult for me, and it's only now that I'd like to share it with others. So with the 4 facets, the physical, the spiritual, the ethereal and the divine, I'd like to say how I see. So, to see energy, and I'll say conscious energy is what we might call a ghost or an energetic presence, our soul. It hasn't always got to be the energy of a person that's deceased. You know, astral projection. You know, I could be here for hours trying to explain to you the various forms, but if I just say conscious, if I say conscious energy, that just means it has a feeling, thoughts, a mind of its own. Yeah? There's the other side that I see, which I call the innate energy. And that's energy of, say, electrical devices, computers. Like, you know, we have a gaming room here, all the kids come and play, and my sons, after when I go in there and I shift my gaze, my awareness, I can see the energy parameters all the way around the room. So that's the one. Then I see in the mind. So for example, I see stories. And how that one works for me with the synesthesia is that it's like a movie screen in front of me. So for years I couldn't grasp how I could see these stories, and I was going to these workshops from the age of about 19 years of age, nearly 30 years ago, and I couldn't ascertain how I can see all of this and nobody else can. And you know, I'm not saying I'm not bonkers, like I always say, you know, only a madman would say he's sane, but in all seriousness, they weren't conscious, but I could see them. And then I realised what they were my abstract imagery. So for example, it's, you know, watching a movie, you see the movie screen in front of you. I was getting that around people. So before I trained and I was able to be more alert and disciplined, people were telling me their stories. But rather than not allowing it all to take over me, like it is now, you know, I was just seeing their stories. And then from the divine, I do see it very much in the archetypes. So in my own reality, my own worlds, you know, there's been many times when, through my own dark night of the souls, which I've had many, where I've felt the presence of Archangel Gabriel. You know, I love religion, like I state all the time, I haven't got to keep harping on about that, but it's an archetype. It's the archetype of this divinity, because we haven't yet, as humans, been able to work out how to switch these different awarenesses. So, to keep it nice and simple, the reason why we haven't is because we haven't had to. You know, it's so consumed by ourself, our greed, social networking. You know, here's me saying that and I'm doing a YouTube video, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just doing this as advice, really. So, let me just try and put it into a simple way. We have had so much distractions, we really haven't had time to be with ourselves. You know, COVID-19 hit a few years ago and the population seemed to be, you know, like a bunch of headless chickens to me. You know, rather than utilising it like I did, which was an opportunity to be on my own, to be in quiet, which is very difficult for me at times. You know, people were just going ballistic. So, in order to start being able to see spirits, you've got to want to. That's the first thing. And it sounds very easy to say that. But if we say subconscious, your subconscious knows your triggers and it knows what's good for you. So, all these people saying, oh, I'd like to see ghosts. In all reality, would you really? If one was in front of you, would you really? I don't know. Only you can answer that. The second thing is we are so conditioned with our peripheral vision that we have forgotten how to see everything that's around us. When they say you only see what's in front of your eyes. So I'll just give you an easy tip. Okay, I like to use the flame. You know, the flame as a point of reference and just look into the flame. That in itself is an element. And it gives me focus and intention for starters. But just keep looking into something like that, something that's got a consciousness. You know, one of the most powerful elements. And you just carry on looking and focus, you know, and we're not talking about minutes, weeks, we could be talking about a lifetime of focus. You know, when I've done various vision quests, you know, in line with the North American shamanism, you know, I've been 3 days, maybe, sometimes longer, in vision quests, just waiting in stillness, going into the wilderness, building yourself a camp, you know, making a shelter, making it simple. Prior to that, you probably would have spent 2 days building up to this experience by being fasting, sweat lodge, prayer, intent, not eating, very simple bit of sugar, just to be able to sustain that energy. But the intention of this is bringing yourself closer. And then probably 2 days after of resting, the not doings, then you start to glimpse at the cracks in our peripheral vision of the everyday now. Another thing, when you see at the corner of your eyes, it's not as though these energies are in the corners of the room. It's because that's the place where you're not used and not trained to see them. I'll give you another tip. When I was younger, and here, probably looking at about the mid-90s, there was all the rage with these 3D pictures, and you'd look at the picture and eventually with some sort of movement, you'd be able to see the 3D picture. So imagine that, or if you've got one of the 3D pictures on your phone or whatever, just have a look at it, and at that very moment when you're bringing it and you can see it, soften your gaze. And what I mean by that is just slowly look at it, but look through it. So as if you was looking at something, you know, and just not really paying too much attention. And keep your focus on that point of where you saw the 3D picture. And keep it, I mean, you're going to have to blink, you know, it's not endurance. And then just keep your gaze like that for hours. Sometimes, you know, I don't work in time these days. And obviously, you know, I know when it's time to eat, time to go to bed, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, I'm not subscribed or controlled by time. But sometimes I can spend hours just in that fixation, in that reality. And that's how you start to see. Remember, mediumship, clairvoyance is something totally different. I'm not going to discuss that on this video because I'm not asking you to converse. I'm just asking you how to see visually. So obviously you've got all your senses, and then you've got the extrasensory perception, which could be the kinesthetic side, the art of knowing, the hunch, you know, how you know you don't like somebody when you've met them for the first time. It's because it's your higher selves, your subconscious meeting, and there's maybe some, you know, unresolved karma. Could be one of a billion things. I'm just trying to give you an insight, just to be able to see. So if you could then, once you've got that glance, very simple, you know, I have this idea of sharing everything I know with people, you know. There's a lot of sacred rituals, practices, things that I've been, you know, which in days gone by I would never have shared. And it's not because it's so secretive, it's because it's not necessary for that person or that individual to know this information. It might not be their time, but we are in a different time now, in my feeling. We're in an accelerated time where I think everybody is starting to look about and questioning everything. You know, maybe COVID-19 brought that in us, or we are not as inflammable as we think we are. I don't know. But anyway, there's a feeling within me, a kinesthetic feeling that I'm to do this. If it works out, it doesn't matter to me. My intention isn't to hit 1 million viewers. I don't even think I've got one yet, or one subscriber, but it's not the point. My point is to do my best to share my knowledge, my love, light and intention with as many people as I can. It's not about money, and this is why I'm sharing this with you in the ethos of my spiritual socialism, because we haven't got to pay for all of these gurus and stuff. You know, as much as people got to make a living. So please forgive me if you think I'm doing it for nothing and it's your income. You know what I mean? I did 5 years full-time studying finance at higher education, so I understand, you know, I understand business. But what I'm trying to say is that we have the right to grasp this part of ourselves and tinker with it. Okay, so let's just get back how you see energy, that's all. Not how you communicate, just how you see. So we've had the soft glance, we've had the focus, we've had looking into the flame, we've had the 3D coming at you. So we've had hours of just sitting there with intent, not afraid. Okay, so then what you will start seeing something like this, or what I see, you know, or what I saw when I started. Around every object in line with my mirrors, so everything we touch, we leave a part of ourselves energetically. So this is when I go to a shower or, you know, blah, 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 I can see the energy of things. I don't get too obsessed with this, because if you let your mind jump into it with our humans' obsessive compulsions, then you're just going to get yourself in a mess thinking, oh, I'm here, there and everywhere. It's not like that. So what I started to see is around plants, which I've got a lot in my room and my home, and around people, just around is what I've discussed before as the Viracocha, which is the Quero words for source of the sacred, the soul. The halo, you know, in Renaissance, we haven't got to be a saint to have a halo, we've all got one. So I started seeing the outline of colours. So we started seeing the outline of light, different tones of translucent light. You're starting to expand into seeing. So once you've saw that, go with that. Remember, drop your focus, look through something, have your gaze, and then start looking, and you'll start, you may, you know, I don't want to, you know, give you a 100% proof. Start seeing colours, blues, greens, aquamarines, all these beautiful colours. That with it, which is really interesting, this is why where synesthesia is good for me, is that with these colours, there's always an association of an emotion, energy and motion. Okay, so I'm not going to go into that, but that's how it works for me. And then eventually you'll start seeing it all the time, because you're using that focus. You're not tunnel vision, you're using this part of yourself. How it worked for me then, how it works, obviously, once I've gone into that non-ordinary state, which I've done on other videos with the breathing and the meditating, I've seen the light. With somebody's free will, I'm now entering it into their matrix. And imagine, well, I like to imagine, I've never saw this, with a microscope, maybe fizzy pop under a microscope, or bubbles, I can imagine that's what it looks like. That's what I see. And these are stories. So each one of these capsules tells a story about this person. Okay, remember now, I don't want to go off at a tangent, but that doesn't mean this incarnation. It could be one of the 20 that we have lived. So, and always remember, you will only show something that's for your benefit, for your healing. So I go into these stories and it opens up into a massive scenario, and I'm now a third party watching a scene. You know, this is what I've done in my own life, in my own family history, my own soul compilation, and that's how it works for me. Okay, so let's just draw back now, draw back from where we were, and just allow us to be in the moment. That's how I see energy. Everybody has the capacity to do it, but like anything, you know, some people are better at doing other things than others. It doesn't matter, you know. All I'm saying to you is you have the power, you have the right. You haven't got to subscribe to a religion or spiritual path to make it accessible. You have it within you. And this is what I'd like to promote with the LFTL 96 program I'm putting together, is that it's yours. All I want you to do is have a better connection with yourself. The long-term goal is about collectivity. It's about love. We live in a world, it was only yesterday I was reading one of my books, How to Practice, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And it says, the real poverty is within greed. You're hungry, 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 but you're never satisfied. That's how I live my life. We're simple. I get such a lot of love and affirmation from kindness. And why I do this work, getting back to my intention, is for collectivity. Not for this life of Nick or for any of my soul compilation. It's for the wholeness of the world. The Dalai Lama's speech on the millennium, he said, you Western people are obsessed with world peace. Why don't you search for inner peace and thus project that onto the world? That's the best gift you can give to society. Okay? So that's why I'm doing it. Or in Jungian therapeutic terms, with the subconscious, the collective and the superconscious, it's for the superconscious and the collective conscious. You know, I'll leave you with this. When I was a kid, we used to watch a film in and around 1985. Now, what was it called again? The Never-Ending Story. It had a cracking soundtrack. Was it Lamar? Never-Ending Story? I think it was. And the story was that the spirit worlds, the worlds of energy, were failing because we'd forgotten how to dream. So, into the story went this little boy reading a book in some old archetype of scary house. And Atreyu was on a mission to the Crystal Tower, I think, to save the world. So he just lost the capacity to dream. So this is why I give everything I do, everything I am, is for this reason, for the collective and for the super. We need to find our way home. Okay guys, so I hope that's been beneficial to you in any sort of way. Leave me any messages, I've got my email address on there, and within reason I'll answer as many questions as I can. But obviously, ultimately the answers are within you. So, I like to do this every single time. Just a bit of fun really, nothing in it. Whatever I've written over the past, I've read so on over the past few years, I've always liked to write it down and put sellotape around it. The one I did today was All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. So let's just have a look then, let's just see, and stop. Oh, it's by Nicholas White Wolf, Principles of LFTO 96, that is me. And it says, live and look through the eyes of love. What that means, when I say love, that doesn't mean holding hands with some sort of rom-com in a beach scenario. It means every situation that you encounter in your life, look for the light in it and the love in it. There's a wonderful saying, it says, we don't see situations as they are, we see them as we are. So if you fundamentally this emotion, you will see. So for me, no matter what's happened to me in my life, the things that happen, the things that I've done, the way I see the entire world, every situation from the most minuscule to the most gigantic, always find the love. It's there, the light is there. And if you have that focus, then you will always attract that to you too, in the like attracts life. Okay guys, thanks for listening, goodbye, journey well.